All right, on the bench today is, let me show it to you first, my, soon to not be mine, I think, Sony STR-6060F stereo receiver. Now, the reason why I'm working on the 6060, let me make a real quick adjustment here. I realize my mic is down a little bit further than it should be. I actually had some people ask about this receiver in the video that I shot on it a long time ago. I don't know what Stella's doing. She's making some kind of noise in the background. So anyway, some people were asking about this, and this was one of those, hey, when I get back into it, I'll resume the video series on it. I think I don't know if I did lamps or I cleaned the controls or something like that. But anyway, this has developed some popping. Now the popping, I believe, according to my note, was on phono, right channel. I confirmed by swapping speakers. It starts after 40 minutes or so. I also tested... I don't even know what my note is. I guess I tested to make sure it wasn't the turntable somehow causing the popping, and it was confirmed that the table was not causing the popping. So let's take a look at the inside of this receiver. And I've been working on a few TA1120s, and I think those share some of the circuitry on the 6060. And if so, we have some things that we need to address. I'll be shooting a video on a TA1120 that I just received that I need to recap. Oh, there it is. Make sure I didn't lose my screws. So what's going on with these amplifiers and receivers from Sony back in the late 60s is they used 2SC458s, and 2SC458s are known to get noisy. Now this has some yellow-legged transistors. You can kind of see them here. I suspect, although these are not marked, I suspect that on the amplifier boards and on the preamp, any preamp boards, there are going to be 2SC458s, and these are 2SC633s. I don't think the 633s are on the bad transistor list, but I'm really not sure. I believe, yeah, that's part of the tuner. I don't know where the phono, it might be underneath. There we go. So let's take the bottom off and see what we can see underneath. And there we have I think the phono preamp is probably right there. 2SC632. I will have to pull up the service manual just to be sure. Power supply. 2SC633s. I would think that that's probably the phono preamp. And we have these unmarked transistors, but they look a lot like the 2SC458s that I pulled out of the TA1120s. I had one floating around up here, but I don't see it now. If I can find one, I'll show it to you. I wish these were stamped so I could confirm. Those could be 633s though. Yeah, those could be 633s. They're interesting transistors in that the legs are Oh, they're marked on the other side. 632, 632, 631. 632 and 631. Huh, interesting. That is interesting. I mean, it could be a failing capacitor. Could be. So I had the same popping occur on a TA1120, and it was actually one of these very, very, very small value capacitors. They don't look like they would be small value, but in this form factor, I think on the TA1120 they were 30 picofarad. So I wouldn't be surprised if it is, I mean, it could be those capacitors as well. So I'm going to pull up the service manual, and then we'll talk about next moves. All right, so confirmed via the post on Audio Karma. And for those that have not come across that post or have heard about that post, there's There's a thread called Top 10 Worst Transistors on Audio Karma. And they list all of the transistors, well, they list a lot of transistors that are known to go noisy over time. And 631s and 632s are on that list. So those are prime suspects. Now, recommended replacements, modern substitutions for those are KSC 1845s. What I have found on older Sony equipment, that depending upon where those transistors are living, right, within the receiver, 1845s sometimes don't work well. There's too much gain on the 1845. Now, that's typically when we're talking 2SC458s. So sometimes you substitute with an 1845, and an 1815 actually would have been a better substitution. I found that on the Kenwood KA6000 as well. So kind of what I'm getting at is if you replace whatever the transistor is, 458s, 631s, 632s, on an old late 60s Sony or Kenwood, and it doesn't work right, it doesn't sound right, you get some kind of weird motorboating or something like that happening, you may have to remove the 1845s and put in an 1815. That's kind of the long way to explain what's going on with that. So what I'm going to do, and since I'm going to, I need to get one of my special screwdrivers here, since I'm going to be replacing those bad transistors, I'm also going to recap this board while I have it out, and hopefully I just need to remove these two screws and then kind of slide it up. I may have to remove some wraps. I mean, these things are beautifully put together. They're gorgeous. Looks to me like I may have here we go. All right. Let's see. Excuse my big head. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to remove some wire ties. I really don't like to remove them. They use like little pieces of rope. This one doesn't have rope like on the TA1120. This has, it's just vinyl tubing, plastic tubing. But if I can get this in a position where I can not unwrap some of those, that would be ideal. Traces on these are pretty fragile, so you want to be aware of that, and you want to be very careful. Yeah, I don't know if I'm really going to be able to get to it. Maybe. I mean, removing these two ties isn't going to be a huge deal. Right, I think I should be able to get to it like this without removing any ties. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to start by removing all of the 2SC 631s and 632s. Now I'm not going to bother testing these because they're probably going to test okay on the tester. But we have 32, 32, 31, 31, and 32. And again, according to Audio Karma, KSC 1845 should work. So what I want to do is I'm going to do one channel first, turn it on, make sure I get sound before I do the other side. I'm going to do the easy side first, then I'll do the other side, and then I will talk about those transistors. Before I get too far, one thing to note, I'm going to throw one of these on my tester of each value just to make sure I get the legs properly oriented. So you'll see me testing these and then scribbling on a piece of paper. That's all I'm doing. I want to make sure I get the orientation correct on those. All right, so leg orientation is the same as the modern substitution of the KSC 1845. Interesting thing about the legs on this, though, if you look at them, they're flat pieces of metal. So they're really fragile. I think because of how fragile they are, what Sony did is they used that little tiny piece of tubing, right, over the middle leg. Now, I'm not going to do that with the modern replacements because these are definitely, right, these legs, they're not gonna, you know, easily bend and touch each other. And the way this was oriented was, right, emitter closest to me, collector in the middle, and then the base furthest from me, like so. So these are actually going to be fairly straightforward as far as the 632s go. I'm going to do all those. I'm sure the 31 is the same, but I'm going to verify by testing, and then we're going to test this channel. So, yeah, then we'll come back and test that channel. All right, so the 631s, before I forget, the 631s were oriented the same way. Emitter, collector, base, right? The legs were emitter, and then collector, and then base. So those have all been replaced. Now I'm going to give this a sound check on left and right. Now, since I know that the 631s and 632s are bad, what I will do is replace all of the 631s and 632s I see on all the boards. So essentially I'll be recapping this entire unit. Because if I'm working on a board, I might as well pull the caps because those are going to be bad. I think I am going to have to unwrap this board because it's going to be a bear to get to some of those caps and transistors on the bottom. Now what I do to test phono, you know, I take my phone, I turn the volume all the way down, connect my phone to the volume, connect my phone to the phono, right on this, and then I kind of between the volume on the receiver and the volume on the phone, I get it to where I can just verify I have two channels. I could connect a phono to this, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to grab my phone, I'm going to test this, I'm going to come back and let you know what I found out. All right, so I tested that. I got sound, so that's good. One thing that I am curious about, though. So, and it's hard to do with the phone when you're testing a phono stage with a cell phone. I'm getting some distortion on the right channel. I am assuming this is the right channel where I just replaced it with those KSC 1845s. Because I'm using a phone and the phone is actually able to amplify the signal, I don't know whether it's the distortion is there because of the phone or if the distortion is there because of the 1845s. I think what I'm going to do, because it would be pretty easy to do, I may pull all of these and put 1815s in there and just see what happens. My suspicion is that if I put 1815s in, the distortion is going to go away. I think these are probably too high gain for the phono stage on this. And again, I'm just going off my experience with the TA1120s, right? Because again, these share some of the same circuitry. So I'm going to pop these out. I'm going to retest. I'm going to see what happens. If I don't get that distortion, I'm going to replace all of these with 1815s instead of 1845s. I could go through the circuit, maybe replace the 631s with 1845s, but I would just rather do them all and make sure that it's going to be good. I can get super nerdy and I can look at the transistor, the gain values in between the 631 and 632, and I can try to do it that way, but I don't have time for that. I'm just going to put 1815s in and then see what happens. I'll come back and let you know. All right, so I swapped all of those transistors out with 1815s. It seems to like 1815s a little bit better than the 1845s, so I'm going to probably opt to use 1815s where I can. So I'm going to recap this board. I'm going to do that probably off camera, and well, maybe I will just kind of speed through it. It shouldn't be, whoops, my big fat head hit the camera. Shouldn't be too, it's gonna suck. Because some of those caps are kind of buried in there. And I did have to cut one of the wire wraps. Didn't feel quite so bad because they didn't use that rope. You know, little pieces of string to tie them. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and recap this, and then we'll move on to the next board. All right, board has been recapped and confirmed to be working. So I'm going to put this back in here, like so. But before I get too far, what I would like to also do, if I can get a little bit organized here, is I would like to test these caps real quick just to see how far out of spec they are. I'm not going to do all of them, I just want to do a couple. So this is supposed to be 33, whoops. This is supposed to be 33, 42, 33, 41. It's not horrible. 76. This is supposed to be 47, so that's pretty far out of spec. So 74. While not horrible, ESR on the caps I've tested so far has been good. Capacitance has been greater than 20% or greater. So here's another one, 20%. All right, that's 100, so 142. Again, not terrible, but 144, and that's 100. Probably a good thing that I swapped these out. So what I'm going to do next is one more. This was a 4.7. Yeah, that's 4.7 and it's 13. So that's definitely out of spec. So next step will be to move to the next board. I'm probably going to stay here on the back side. I am guessing that is likely the protection circuit. That's what I'm guessing that one is. You know, I never did confirm that this was the phono board. Probably should do that, but I don't know what else it would be. So phono board done. Next we'll be on to the what I'm going to call the protection circuit, because there are some 633s on there. Then we'll come around to the amplifier board. I don't have radial caps for some of these values. This 200, this 1000, and this 500. I'll have to order those and do those. I don't believe there are any caps on this tone control board. I'll have to check. I don't see any. I'll have to look at the service manual, schematics for that board. So anyway, I'm going to call it phono board, or whatever this board is. Let's just call it phono board. Phono board is done. And then we will pick it back up. This one shouldn't take me very long. I'm probably not going to do this on camera. I'll just recap that one, talk about it. Yeah, 633s. Yeah, 633s all the way around on that board. And then we'll flip it back over and do the amplifier boards. All right, so on to the next board. This is according to the service manual, this is the preamp board. So I'm thinking, and I have to look at the circuit diagram, but I'm thinking this is kind of a combination phono head amp. Probably not for the power amp. I would think that maybe the preamplifier section is mounted on those boards, but I'd have to look at the overall schematic and see if that's true. But I don't know that I care enough to do that. And there's Stella right on cue barking. So next we're going to work on the protection circuit. So this is a cap coupled receiver, does not have the traditional, well, I guess not traditional, but what would become the traditional relay that clicks in. But it does have a protection circuit, so you hopefully don't fry your speakers if you encounter some unfavorable operating conditions. Since this is capacitor coupled, you shouldn't get any voltage on the speaker terminals anyway. But. All right, so we've got 4 transistors, and that transistor I'm not going to change. 1 radial cap. I'll see if I have, I'm pretty sure I don't have a cap for that, but I will check. I may. But I'm going to do these 4 transistors because these are 33s. And this is a, let's see, 33, 33, 33. 33s are not. Oh yeah, 33s were on the bad list. No, 31s and 32s were on the bad list. But while I'm in here, I'm going to look up the transistor sub for a 2SC633. I'm sure it's going to be an 1845, 1815, 1845. So I'm going to swap those out, do that 1 cap, see if I have one for that one, and then we'll move on to the next board. One thing I did not look at, I know this is kind of boring, listen to me look for things, but I want to look at the tone control board. And the tone control board, yeah, it has 633s on it. No. Take that back. Tone control board does not. It does not. It's that board. So anyway, let me see what I got. Yeah, I don't have anything to replace that with, so I'll have to order one. And I checked, I don't have any of these values either, because I just don't ever use them. So we're going to go on to replacing the 4 transistors and that 1 capacitor on this board. Alright, so here are some of those little strings I was telling you about. Gosh, I just hate cutting them because it's so cool. I don't know why I think they're really cool. I just think they're really cool how they're just, but I need to cut them so I can gain access to the backs of the transistors. Isn't that neat? I don't know why I think that's so neat. Just like little tiny waxy pieces of string. Alright. Oh, that made it much easier though. Alright, back to pulling these transistors out. Okay, so that board has been recapped. I verified it was working. I'm not even going to bother testing the one cap that was there. I'm going to assume it was just like all the others. I will have to order some caps, some radio caps. I didn't have anything close. I'm also just about out of 47 microfarad caps. Hopefully there aren't a lot more that I need for this thing, because that... I'm just looking at these amplifier boards, the bottoms. That would, that'll suck, because I think I'm down to like two or four 47 microfarad caps. So I'm going to leave the bottom off. I'm going to flip this over. I'm not going to worry about the power supply, because those are all axial caps. And we're going to look at these amplifier boards and see what the easiest way to tackle these might be. I think there's not a lot of room. And what I was looking at is on the bottom of these two cards, I could remove the 6 wires or so. It looks like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 8 wires. And then slide the cards out. The problem is everything is soldered together. So for the output transistors, sometimes you can just slide them out. I'd have to desolder these because these are actually soldered together. And I don't know how far out of the way I'm going to be able to move these heat sinks. So what I'm thinking is if I can unscrew these at the top, I might be able to separate them enough to where the card flips this way, the heat sink goes that way, and I have enough room to replace the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 caps. And I'm assuming these are 733s. I mean 633s, they are 632s, 631s. So we have bad transistors on both boards. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect the boards from the heat sinks and see what happens. Well, I won't fast forward through that. I'll just talk y'all through it. It was a bummer I had to use twist ties on the bottom, but I actually thought about grabbing some twine and tying them back up. I just may do that when I get those when I get the caps in. May tie it back together. So thoughts are, I think I'm gonna have to remove 2 screws for the heat sinks. At least 1 screw, 2 screws. And the board that I just recapped, I'm going to have to move out of the way because there's a screw directly underneath it, so that sucks. And they use screws with a lock washer and a flat washer, so every screw that you remove is like a 3-piece part. All right, let me just forward through this. Yeah, didn't give me quite as much room as I had hoped. But I think I can get to it like this. I'm pretty sure I can get to it like this. Now the tricky part is going to be underneath. I think these are basically thermistors, and they've got, and it was like this on the TA1120. So I don't know if you can really see that board there. You really can't see, but this is a board on these little pieces of metal, and they're kind of soldered in position. Problem is I got a transistor right underneath this board. So, but you've got to be careful with these boards. So that's going to be a challenge. Those two little boards are going to be a challenge. I think I can remove them though. I think I can remove them without hopefully without a whole lot of issues. But I need to do that to get to one of the two transistors. So what I'm going to do is I need to step away for a little bit. I will pick it back up, recapping this board, and then we'll let you know how it went. If it went pretty easy, I just may move to the next board. If there were any lessons learned or anything of value to stop for, I will stop and talk about them. Well, I may be at a standstill. I'm going to have to pull up the service manual. What's going on is I think I'm going to need more 47 microfarad caps. I need to pull up the service manual for the board and see what these remaining caps are. If they're 47s, I'm going to have to order some new ones. So, let's see. Amplifier board. What the hell? Oh, come on. Just, can you work with me? OneDrive signed me out for some reason. What I also did is this wire here is basically just holding this heatsink back a little bit. So that's the only reason that's there. It pulls back on it enough to kind of keep them separate. So let me go to Sony. Let me go to my 66 or 60. And I'm going to pull this up. I'll be right back. I'm going to pull this up, see what those remaining caps are. If they're 47s, I'm going to have to order some new. And then I do want to test these, and I want to talk about one of the caps that I pulled out. So let me check on this, and I'll be right back. Well, as I feared, and I could have swore I ordered some 47 microfarad caps, but I have 2 left. So I'm going to have to order some more, which kind of blows, because I wanted to get this done today, but at least it will give me an opportunity to kind of put this back together. So let's look at these caps that I pulled, and I'm going to do the big one first. There's a 350 microfarad cap, which is kind of an odd value. So I threw a 330 in there. It's within probably tolerance, but I'm just kind of curious as to what this is. 517, so that was way out there. This 47. Again, I'm just kind of curious. 61. So all these caps are definitely out of spec. This is 100, 134. So they're all more than plus 20%. And this is a 33, 43. All right. So I guess what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to reassemble. I'm going to finish out this side of the board because I do have enough for the 247 microfarad caps that I have remaining. And then one of them is like a 200. And I think the other one's a 10. Let's see, what are they? They are 47, 200, and I think a 1. Looks like a 1. So I'm going to finish this board with what I have. I'll have to order caps for the other board. I probably will do that off camera, and then I will come back around and we will talk about next steps on the STR-6060. All right, this side's done. Just kind of catching you up on where I left off. Completed and tested, so that side has been recapped. Now we're on to the next amplifier board. And let's see here. I'm going to clean up some of my mess in the middle of about 5 different projects. I also need to... I won't do that quite yet. All right. So this one might be a little bit more tricky to get to, but we will see. As before, oops, oh, that's stainless steel. You know, I appreciate Sony's build quality, but these screws with the lock washers and the flat washers can get a little bit tedious to work with. So what I have to do is remove the screws from the other amplifier board so I can pop that out of there, and I might as well secure the other one since we're good. So I'm going to do that off camera, and I'll probably just pick up recording with me recapping that amplifier board. All right, let me get my... I accidentally moved my camera mount. There we go. And I got it all jacked up. I'll have to fix that. But all right, so this has been recapped. It's been tested, so it's on FM right now. I'm getting sound out of both channels. Oop, that channel's not really... I don't have an antenna hooked up to it. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this installment, I guess, on the 6060FW. I looked up the alignment procedures, but they're pretty convoluted, and I don't have all of the equipment to do them, so I don't know that I'm going to do that. If I do, that will be the subject of a new video somewhere down the road. So, as always, if you like what you see, hit like, hit subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.